She's not what you'd expect. She's tough and feisty, but gentle and tender. She makes millions and gives millions to the poor. She cries, she laughs, she teaches, she comforts. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Welcome to the Dani Johnson Show. We are very, very blessed that you've decided to join us today. Today, as we venture on a journey for your success, and you being here each and every day to learn more about designing the life you want to live, living it by design instead of living it by default. You know, we are inundated by imagery and content, phrases, posts about ourselves. And so much about how we see ourselves is how we act out around others. When it comes to the conversation of success in every area of your life, there's sometimes some things that we have that are hidden beneath the surface. There are some things that I have found personally in my life that no one knew about, struggles that I had. To be honest with you, suicide being one of them. I wrestled with suicide for many, many years. In fact, the first time I tried to commit suicide, I was 6 years old. You have to ask yourself, what in the world is in the mind of a 6-year-old to want to take her own life? Literally, I was a kindergartner attempting to take my own life. We live in a world today where people don't talk about these things. They just kind of keep them hidden until all of a sudden one day it's too late. Now, I'm not talking about suicide today, but I am talking about things that lead to it. It's a self-sabotaging process. It's something that says, I don't belong. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. That then leads to things like addictions to alcohol, drugs, pornography, food, and even self-harm. Self-harm has become such a popular thing until one day I actually was reading in the Bible, and during the times of Elijah, the way that they used to worship their gods, God of Baal and Ashtoreth, was with self-harm, cutting themselves, making themselves bleed in worship of this false god, trying to get this false god's attention. And so self-harm is not a new modern day thing. It's been around for a really long time. It's been a form of idolatry for 4,000 years, or maybe even longer than that. But it is a form of idolatry even now. And I know that might like tweak your head, but you might be saying right now, Dani, I don't self-harm, so what does it matter to me? You could be surrounded by people that do. In fact, you might even have a child that is self-harming and you might not even know about it. It could be that you have some coworkers that are. And you might be saying, well, who cares if my coworkers are? But you probably should care if your kid is. And even signs, how do you find out if that is the case and what's happening? But you also might ask the question of, what does this have to do with my success? Who cares? I mean, Dani, we're supposed to be talking about success. Well, what's your personal definition of success? Is it just money and fame? And is it just, popularity? What's your definition of success? I would certainly hope that in your vision for success, your family is somewhere included in there. I would certainly hope that the health and care and well-being of your children and your spouse, if you have those, is included in your vision for success. It can't just be about money, because you'll sacrifice things that are much more important than money. You'll sacrifice people and relationships, your health, your emotional well-being. You'll sacrifice all those things all for money. That's why I know that your goal and your vision for success is not just money, but it's the full picture. Why? Because you're a full person. So today joining me is one of our coworkers. Yes, another coworker we're bringing to the program who battled with self-harm. Her name is Rachel. Rachel works in our office. She's a part of our events team. If you've been to First Steps to Success, you have seen her beautiful face there. She actually does the camera work at First Steps to Success. Rachel Phillips and her family have been attending First Steps to Success for more than 5 years. They have the whole family. It's paid off over $1 million worth of debt. Her aunts, her uncles, the entire family's been through our training seminars, First Steps to Success and Creating a Dynasty. Her grandparents even. Her grandparents have been a great blessing to us. She grew up in a wonderful, wonderful home with loving parents, successful parents, an only child. You have to ask yourself, what drives a kid who's grown up so blessed? And she was the first granddaughter. She was, that chosen, sweet, wonderful, talented young lady that her parents just spoke wonderful things over her whole life. And yet something provoked her to begin to cut herself. Why are we going to talk about this? Well, number one, this is a story of overcoming. And you have things in your life and I have things in my life that we need to overcome. We all have struggles. It's always good to learn from other people how they've overcome their struggles, whether those struggles are suicidal thoughts, cutting, alcohol, drugs, addicted to spending, gluttony, addiction to food, addiction to entertainment. No matter what that addiction is, the thing that is driving your life, that is consuming your life and self-sabotaging your success, we're going to talk about how to overcome those kinds of things that are keeping you back, that are holding you back, how to identify them, push through them, and get to the other side. So please help welcome Rachel Phillips to the Dani Johnson Show. So Rachel, I'm so excited that you decided to grab the courage.
Thank you.
Because literally we just talked about this last night.
Yeah.
And we've had her on stage and she shared her story on stage at First Step Success, before 1,000, 1,200 people,
Yeah.
And that's one thing. But then she's like, there's freedom that comes when you talk about these kinds of things. Okay, so I want to read the statistic to those who are listening. 1/3 to 1/2 of U.S. adolescents have engaged in some type of self-injury. And this is according to the U.S. National Library of Medicine. 70% of teens engaging in self-injury behavior have made at least one suicide attempt. Now, did your parents know that you were self-harming?
Absolutely not.
And that's crazy. They
Yeah.
had no idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so when was the first time that you self-harmed? How old were you?
I was probably about 14. I don't remember the exact first time. So it started when I was 14, and then it took about 3 years before by about the time I was 17 was the time that I finally said that I stopped. And since then, I've been completely set free of that and have no struggle with that or suicidal thoughts or anything.
So what made that happen at 14? Where did you even get the idea?
Right. There were honestly a lot of different influences that led up to that. There was, I was bullied from the time I was really young in school by classmates, called names, teased, just picked on everything. And then leading up into middle school and kind of high school time frame, there was, pressures from home to perform in school, pressures with my parents, things that I felt guilty of that were wrong in their relationship, that I felt was my fault, or things that were going on in their business that I felt were my fault. And so pressures from that, there was...
what would ever make you feel like it was all your fault? Because their marriage is not your fault.
Right. Maybe if I was... not such a, not provoker, but maybe if I didn't cause arguments because we would have family conversations that I would, sometimes initiate, they would be arguments involved, or maybe, if I was a better kid, my parents wouldn't be stressed at home and in business and in their marriage. Maybe if I just wasn't here, they would have one less front of stress in their life and it would be easier. Or, just these really twisted thoughts that are not based in any fact at all, but
and not in any truth, because your parents, you were telling me just the other day that when you were 15, they came to you and told you that as soon as they found out they were pregnant, you could go ahead and tell.
Yeah,
this is
so
amazing.
I don't remember if it was 15 or 16. But anyways, it was in the time when I was self-harming that my parents came to me on one of my birthdays and said, ever since, and I'd known my whole life that my parents had blessed me and prayed for me. But they came to me and said, ever since we found out we were pregnant, we've been praying for you. Ever since we found out you were a girl, we've been praying for your future husband. We've been praying for your success your entire life. And even that, knowing that, for whatever reason, it still wasn't enough to bring an immediate change. And I remember bawling my eyes out when they told me, just because I was so touched and so amazed by that. So, and felt so much love in that.
So you were not the kid that was abused at home.
No.
Okay,
I had an amazing
You didn't have my childhood.
Not at all. The exact opposite.
Seriously.
Literally.
I mean, where my parents, I was the abortion that lived.
Right.
I was not wanted. I was not, my mom almost committed suicide when she was pregnant with me with a big cleaver in her belly, trying to end her life. She was 18 and pregnant with me. But you were not, there was not drugs in the household. Mm-mm. You were a church-going family.
Right.
Your grandparents were church-goers.
Yeah.
Your aunts and uncles were church-goers.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone, this is like the model Christian family.
Yeah.
And the granddaughter is self-harming.
Yeah. Yeah, and so
why?
So along with what I was saying,
here's the lie that happens in so many parents, and it is a lie. And I remember having to work through this lie in my own head. In fact, it provoked me writing "Grooming the Next Generation for Success." Right? That as parents are like, okay, if I put my kid in a private school, they're going to do great. If I have my kid in youth group and in Bible study, and I have and I just speak nothing but great, wonderful, positive things around them all the time, and if they have a perfect marriage, and everything's going to be great. And if we're good financially, then you're going to have great kids. And we make sure they don't watch any Disney. We're going to have great kids, right? And we make sure they stay away from this, and this, and they don't hang out with those kids over there. Everything's going to be great. And then this happens. And here's the reality. And I wrote this on the last pages of Grooming. I don't know if you've ever seen the book or heard of the book, Grooming the Next Generation for Success. But it says in the very back of the book, if you actually think that this is a manual to make sure that and guarantee that your kids are never going to mess up and that your kids are always going to love you, you're wrong. Because the entire Bible is filled with the love of the most perfect father that has ever been in existence. And yet his children were still rebellious against him. Take the pressure off, Mom and Dad. Take the pressure off. Yeah. Okay? Each kid makes their own decisions. And there were different thoughts that climbed into your head that did not necessarily root from a curse that was spoken by your mother or a curse spoken by your father.
Exactly.
Not at all. Mm-mm. In my case, trying to commit suicide at 6, absolutely. I mean, I was seriously told I should have never been conceived, okay? I should have been the abortion. In fact, the doctors told my mom that I'd be retarded and blind and deaf and dumb if she chose to give birth to me. Love to find that doctor. Anyway, so wow, perfect soil, but bam, this problem. We'll continue with more right after this.
Are you shocked by Rachel's story? Coming up next, Dani and Rachel will expose the mindset behind it and give you some warning signs to look for in your kids. If you or someone you know is practicing self-harm, contact the crisis text line. Text GO to 741-741 or call 1-800-344-HELP for free confidential help.
The whole story of how I went from homeless to millions is right here in this book, First Steps to Wealth. I'd love to give you a free copy of this book. Just dial 888-757-8880. You can get your free copy of this book. It's like a real book, my friend. You can get an ebook copy for free right now, or if you'd like to pay the shipping to get this $15 book to your house, I'd be happy to send it to you. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of First Steps to Wealth today and begin on a brand new path of some great success. Imagine living in a decrepit, unsafe hovel made of waste material on top of old mining tunnels that could explode and sink your home at any moment. Imagine no water to drink, no safe place to raise your children, no food for your starving baby. Imagine that your kids can't learn to read because they have to work to support the family instead of going to school. Could you imagine living in that kind of fear and hopelessness? This is exactly what families are dealing with in the poverty-stricken village of Santa Pancha, Nicaragua. These families can barely meet their basic food, water, and housing needs. We are transforming that village. Be a part of this miracle. I want you to go to the website now and learn how you can help. Go to kingsransom.org and click on Santa Pancha. There you can join with other warriors against poverty and help bring a miraculous transformation to Santa Pancha. That's kingsransom.org, kingsransom.org.
More resources, more training, more results. The DaniJohnson.com Insider membership is your ultimate success shortcut. Get exclusive access to reports, videos, audios, ebooks, cheat sheets, and other training for your personal and professional life. This is truly DaniJohnson.com's best kept secret. Become an Insider member today and get on the fast track to success.
This is your chance. This is your shot. Get your copy of War on Debt right now. There's one waiting for you that has your family's name on it. And inside that package is freedom. Your family's freedom is on the inside of that package. All you have to do is open it up, press play, and start applying what I teach you in this program. 888-757-8880. You and I are going to help your family become completely debt-free in the next 5 to 7 years. Just imagine how that's going to feel.
Did you know you can take the Dani Johnson Show with you wherever you go? It's never been easier to stay up to date with the latest content from Dani with the DaniJohnson.com app. Watch or listen in the car, at the gym, or on the go. Download it now from the App Store and Google Play and never miss a show again. Your family, business, and bank account will thank you. If you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do with your life? Discover your own answer. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
So you're 14 and you do your first cut.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you do it?
My ankle.
Your ankle.
Mm-hmm.
Why your ankle?
Because nobody could see it, because the school I went to, we had to wear knee socks. And after school, I played soccer, so there were knee socks. So it was a hidden place. Or the bottom of my feet was another place that I would.
The bottom of your feet?
Mm-hmm.
So would you draw blood?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then what?
What do you mean?
Then what? I mean, I've never cut like that. I mean,
Okay.
I tried to commit suicide, but that wasn't cutting.
Right.
I mean, this cutting is like a continual
Right.
thing. And the cutting led to suicidal thoughts.
Right. Yep. And I actually remember having suicidal thoughts even before the cutting. Not like it wasn't like they were tormenting or they were an everyday thing, but just every once in a while there would be you'd be better off dead. It'd be easier if you were dead. Your parents would be happier if you were dead. All this like just lies again. And so I would also take what are they called? Not clothespins, safety pins, and jab them in my fingers because it's small and nobody's gonna see that. And So
how did it feel when you would be cutting your ankle or cutting the bottom of your foot or sticking pins in your nail?
Honestly,
your fingers?
Well, I feel like, and correct me if you think this is incorrect because you've been doing this a lot longer than I have, but I feel like a lot of self-harm and a lot of the other kids that I've seen who have self-harmed or even adults, it usually comes from feeling like they're either ashamed of themselves, whether it's from bullying or like ashamed of who they are, or it comes from like a lack of control, feeling that you don't have any control. And those two were my main reasons, was shame from being bullied, shame from the pressures from home, like I was saying. And the biggest one, though, was the lack of control, because at the time in my life, my parents were on the verge of divorce. I had to perform for soccer, cross country, school, the AP classes, the extra math classes I was taking, everything.
Exhausting.
Yeah. And so that was, for me, the biggest reason that I kept doing it, was because I was like, okay, well, I know if I stick the pin in my finger or cut my ankle or my foot, I'm going to feel pain. I know that that is what is going to happen. And for whatever twisted reason that my mind had gotten to that point of needing that.
Because that's a form of control?
Yeah, exactly. Because I knew the outcome. I knew exactly what was going to happen. I knew there was going to be blood. I knew I was going to feel pain. I knew what was going to happen. And there was no other area of my life where I knew what was going to happen. And so that was that, as well as, punishing myself for being such a ugly, fat failure, and which is what I'd been called in school growing up. So that's, yeah.
And now you're on TV.
Yeah.
Wonder where they're at. Okay. So, depression, anxiety, PTSD, eating disorders, substance abuse often occur in individuals who self-harm. Was that true for you?
Yes, eating disorders, absolutely.
Tell me about that.
I wouldn't eat a lot of the times. There would be weeks where I would have like a bowl of oatmeal all week. or an energy
Wow.
drink all week. And that was another, the control thing was, I know that I'm going to feel lightheaded. I know that I'm going to want to pass out and be dizzy. That was another. And then also, again, like I said, from childhood, the pressure of feeling the fat and ugly thing and wanting to, make up for that, if you will.
It says that 45% said that they self-harm to release tension or stress and to relax. Did you find a release and relaxation from this?
Yeah, I absolutely think that there is, because it's it becomes familiar. And it becomes like you're by yourself when you're doing it. So there's nobody else, nothing external like coming in, and it's like almost peaceful in a way, because you're familiar with it, and in a lot of cases it becomes an addiction, and addictions are very comforting. When you
in the moment
do it, right?
and the shame and the guilt comes, and then it's not comfortable. After that, wow. Okay, so what I want to turn to next, when we come back from this short break, is what turned Rachel's life around. Like, what happened at 17 specifically, or what was the road that led her to that place of going, this is it. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. What influences that came into your life, or what provoked you to be done with this? Now, again, I want to tie this to struggle. You see, we have financial struggles, we have marriage struggles, we have parenting struggles, we have health struggles, we have physical struggles, emotional, mental, spiritual struggles. So the conversation is not just about self-harm, but it's about overcoming struggles that we think we can never overcome. It's about inviting a struggle into our life that we think is going to make things better, but in all reality, it makes it much, much worse. So this is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more with Rachel Phillips right after this.
So what's keeping you stuck? It's time to get it out of your way for good. Stay right here for more of the Dani Johnson Show. If you or someone you know is practicing self-harm, contact the crisis text line. Text GO to 741-741 or call 1-800-344-HELP for free confidential help. Did you know you can see Dani Johnson live and in person? Go to DaniJohnson.com and find out about our next live event. First steps to success. Register today. Call 866-760-8255 or go to DaniJohnson.com/FSTS.
Prior to plugging into DaniJohnson.com, I was working 60 to 75 hours a week. I was completely stressed out. I was incredibly angry with my husband. We were in over $350,000 worth of debt. By applying the strategies that Dani teaches, in the last 3.5 years, we have paid off $170,000 in debt. We are no longer roommates, and we no longer spend every single cent that we make. We now have made tens of thousands of dollars in passive income in investments. We are on the right track. We're traveling around the world together, and we are building homes for those who really need it. So I don't know about you, but if you want to cut back from 60 to 20 and 30 hours a week, if you want to mend some relationships, if you want to make your life more efficient and a lot more fun, and you want to be the best version of you, I highly recommend that you get registered, because your life is about to change.
Prior to plugging into DaniJohnson.com, first steps to success in creating dynasty, my wife and I were really lost. We were struggling in a relationship. We were struggling financially, drowning in debt. Our relationship was really broken. We were in a bad place. We were living in two completely different states and not really honoring each other. Once we got plugged into the community, we noticed a shift in our lives. Most importantly, we came together as a husband and wife. That was the first thing we did. And when we finally came together under the same roof, things started to change. Over the past 3 years, we've been able to pay off over $495,000 in debt. I know my business, I've had a job created for me that increased my income by 50%. That has actually opened up the door to allow my wife and I to spend more time with each other. So I don't know where you are. I don't know know if your relationship is super awesome. I don't know if your job is immaculate. I don't know if you're debt-free. But what I do know is if you're not any one of those things, your next step is to get plugged into DaniJohnson.com, go on the website, get plugged into the community. I promise you, your life will never be the same.
And prior to plugging into DaniJohnson.com, I was a broke college student, drowning in debt, and I felt like the world was crashing all around me, and I had bad relationships. Since plugging into DaniJohnson.com and First Steps to Success, I was able to pay off $6,600 in 4 months. Now I'm able to give 10% of my income to wherever my heart desires. I actually, using the skills that I learned from Dani, I actually landed a job before I graduated college, and I'm able to travel the world. All I know is if you're serious about annihilating your debt, traveling the world, helping people, and having fun doing so, I highly recommend you get registered for the next First Steps to Success. Do it now, don't wait, don't even thinking about it. If you're ready to change your life, just do it.
We went to our first ever First Steps to Success just 10 weeks ago, and it has definitely been life-changing ever since.
We felt like we got hit by a 2x4, but it was the best 2x4 because what we realized is that our priorities were clearly out of line. I had been building a home-based business and had been working 80 to 100 hours, and I realized that that is not my role, and that I had actually taken my husband's, and it was that realization that something had to change, and we immediately went home and changed everything. There was no hesitation. We said, you know what, we need to be obedient to God.
And we've implemented the tools day one. We started implementing what Dani taught us, invested in ourselves, invested in our kids, got our priorities in line. We've now actually paid off just not quite $60,000 in debt and looking at a couple more investments here as head of the household.
It's been absolutely incredible. So I just encourage you, if any of this speaks to you, if you're wanting to get out of debt, if you're wanting better communication, if you're wanting to elevate to the higher level of life, get to First Steps to Success and plug into DaniJohnson.com.
And now, back to the Dani Johnson Show.
So what struggle you have in your life, what solution have you picked to solve it, and is that solution getting you to where you want to go? Joining me right now is our very own Rachel Phillips. She is on our team. She's a part of the DaniJohnson.com Destiny Global team. She actually is on our events team. She travels all over the country. I think you've been on an international trip with us yet.
Not on staff.
Yeah, not on staff. Yeah, so you've traveled internationally.
Yeah.
She is a former self-harmer and has been free from that for 3 years now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been 3 years that she's been free from that. And the point of this conversation is about overcoming struggle and overcoming even addiction. And how do we break free from the thing that is hindering us? And we actually start doing something that we think is going to make us feel better. But all in all, it drives us into a much deeper, more depressed, more self-harming position. So, and we also have some people that we asked a question about self-harm on Facebook. And we have some incredible, faithful viewers and listeners to the Dani Johnson Show who have decided to share their experience as a part of self-harm that has touched their family and how it impacted it and then how they've come out of it. So what was the breaking point? Okay, you said that 17, something happened and you've been done with it and it's been 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to be really specific or just like the general story?
Specific. Go for
Okay. All right. Well, it was actually after in 2013, May of 2013 was a dynasty in Pittsburgh. And
Creating a Dynasty is our advanced leadership conference. You have to be a graduate of First Step Success, which your whole family has gone through. How old were you when you came to your first Steps?
14 or 15.
14 or 15.
Yeah.
So you were self-harming when you came. Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. All right, so go ahead.
And so at that dynasty, I decided I want to get baptized. And so I did. And about a month after that dynasty, we were on a family vacation in Colorado. And I had actually been free, or I hadn't self-harmed in like a few months at that dynasty. Wow. And so then we were on vacation in Colorado. Something was going on in my head, coincidentally, right after I'd gotten baptized. Mm-hmm. And so I cut myself again on my foot, my heel, and
on a vacation.
On a vacation, yeah, and with my family, all in the same house. And that was after that. That was just I I had some really good friends who were actually, I'm now dating him, but a really good friend of mine who was encouraging me and telling me that he was praying for me. And that was just like, I don't really know what it was that clicked, but that moment of just really understanding God's love for me. And people ask me all the time for specifics, how did you get over this? And I can't answer them without saying that it was all God, because there's not a step-by-step thing that I can say other than God healed me and delivered me. And so from that day, it was June or July of 2013, I've been completely free from that. So
it's awesome.
Yeah.
So had you texted Roman and let him know that you had self-harmed?
No.
You didn't?
No, he had just had a feeling.
He just had a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So, and he just randomly texted you right after you self-harmed.
Mm-hmm.
That's a trip.
Yeah.
And that would be a God thing. There's no other way to explain that. Look at that beautiful timing, right? And the rescuer sent a friend with a message saying that God loves you. That's absolutely incredible. Yeah. Okay, so we have Shelley Rushing, and I'm just going to have you stay here with me, from Wichita Falls, Texas. Why did I say want to Kansas? Shelley, welcome to the show. You let us know that your daughter had self-harmed.
Yes, when she was about the same age that Rachel was.
Yeah.
And I found a lot of similarities between Rachel's story and our own discoverings of my daughter. And I think for my oldest daughter, it was the fact that her dad decided when she was very young that a family wasn't really what he wanted with me. Yep. He wanted a family with someone else, just not the one that he had created with me. And so Hannah dealt with a lot of rejection and a lot of hurt. And the crazy thing about it was that even at a young age, I think that she blamed me for that. And she developed a very unnatural, motherly, maternal type relationship with my mother. And it got to the point to where Hannah was acting out violently in school and was suspended in the 5th grade. Was suspended from school. And so my mother said, well, let her just come live with me. And I was pregnant with my 3rd child, very vulnerable. Yeah. And I thought, I can't fight this woman. I don't know how to fight this. Well, maybe Hannah would be better off there. So I did. I let her go. And she was there for about 3 or 4 years.
Oh, my gosh.
She called me one day in the middle of the night. She said, Mom, come get me. I said, I'll be there tomorrow. Don't say anything to anybody. Put all your clothes in a garbage bag. I'll be there tomorrow.
Wow.
And I raced across Texas. And if you've ever had to drive across Texas,
it's a really big state.
You never get out.
I got her and brought her home. And I think it was maybe about 3 months after that, we were in the kitchen. I think I was cooking and she was doing dishes. And I guess up to that point, she had hid it really well from everyone. But I noticed the cut on her wrist. And I just kept looking at her. It was like, you see things like this happen everywhere else.
And you never think it's going to happen to you.
Family.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What a poor family. And then it hits you, and it's like a ton of bricks fell right on my head. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
My Lord Jesus, this is my daughter. And I just literally dropped what I had in my hands, and I just looked at her, and I started crying, and she felt nothing.
Wow.
She had no emotion.
She was numb.
She was so numb. And I said, baby, why do you do this? And she said, so I can feel something.
Gosh.
And
I want to ask you a question, Shelley. I want to ask you a question. How did you feel as a mom when you found that?
A complete failure.
Yes.
Like a complete, how could I have done so wrong with this precious gift that was given to me?
Yep.
Excuse me.
It's okay.
So we tried counseling, but she would sit in there the whole hour and never say a word.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is not working.
Yeah.
This is just not working. And at the time, we were living in somewhere else. And I was approached about a promotion, but it would require us to relocate here to Wichita Falls.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband said, you know what, let's do it. There's nothing here in this town for us. Let's just go.
Mm-hmm.
And we did. And in fact, Hannah got into JROTC and into some sports there, and she met
awesome.
a really close friend. Rachel, I mean, your story is so similar. She met a really close friend that now she's dating. and he is, we couldn't have asked God for a better person in our life. And she disclosed to him. And he said, you know what? We can get through this together.
Wow.
I mean,
how old is Hannah now?
Hannah is 18, about to be on her senior year, and her boyfriend just graduated last year and is pre-vet at Oklahoma State University.
Nice.
Got such a good head on his shoulders.
And a good heart, obviously.
Yeah.
And a good heart.
Great heart.
Yeah.
A great heart.
You know what, Shelley, I wanna speak to the parent on this, because I know my son, one of my sons, after we had moved to Texas from California, just out of the blue, started to self-harm himself as well, and that's the one that's dating Rachel, which is amazing. So they understand each other on that level. And there is, like we did our so very best to raise our kids in the most amazing life, that we thought, you know what I mean? Because we came from so much abuse, and we wanted to shield our kids from abuse. We wanted to shield them away from drugs. We wanted to shield them from a lot of things. And we did the very best that we could. And the move had an insane effect on our kids. It sounds like a move had a great effect on your daughter. Yeah. And all in all, it's all worked out, and it has been a great effect on our kids by far. We would never move back to California. The move to Texas was by far the best thing that we ever did for our family. But the transition was really difficult, and he happened to be going through his puberty and adolescence and all that stuff right when we moved here. And we had a rough year. I mean, I had been paralyzed. We had some really horrible, traumatic things happen to our family in the midst of a move. Right. But Erica had her double aneurysm. 2 months later, I'm in a wheelchair paralyzed. I mean, it was a really rough year. And then we moved to Belize, and then we moved to Texas. So all of that, and again, looking back, but we all have wounds, and each kid has pain from their past. And we talk a lot about this at First Steps to Success. And if you are a parent and your kid is doing this, beating yourself up is not going to solve it. It's not going to solve it. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
If you're a parent and this topic is making you worry about your own kids, you need to listen to the next segment carefully on The Dani Johnson Show. If you or someone you know is practicing self-harm, contact the crisis text line. Text GO to 741-741 or call 1-800-344-HELP for free confidential help.
This is your chance. This is your shot. Get your copy of War on Debt right now. There's one waiting for you that has your family's name on it. And inside that package is freedom. Your family's freedom is on the inside of that package. All you have to do is open it up, press play, and start applying what I teach you in this program. 888-757-8880. You and I are going to help your family become completely debt-free in the next 5 to 7 years. Just imagine how that's going to feel.
More resources, more training, more results. The DaniJohnson.com Insider Membership is your ultimate success shortcut. Get exclusive access to reports, videos, audios, ebooks, cheat sheets, and other training for your personal and professional life. This is truly DaniJohnson.com's best kept secret. Become an Insider member today and get on the fast track to success. Did you know you can see Dani Johnson live and in person? Go to DaniJohnson.com and find out about our next live event. First Steps to Success. Register today. Call 866-760-8255 or go to DaniJohnson.com/FSTS.
Prior to plugging into First Steps to Success, I was a depressed, hopeless, suicidal drug addict. I had no vision for my life. I absolutely hated people, hated myself. I felt shackled by my debt, and I had toxic relationships. Since plugging in, I've been drug-free for almost 18 months. I paid off nearly $14,000 worth of debt in 14 months. I have completely restored my relationships with my friends and my family. I have a vision for my life now, and I'm actually live and not exist anymore. So I don't know if you have debt or not, or if your life's going perfectly the way you want it to go. But if not, I highly recommend you get registered today for the next First Steps to Success.
Prior to plugging into DaniJohnson.com, we were just lost. We had no hope and light at the end of the tunnel, and we were drowning in debt. After coming to First Steps to Success and plugging into DaniJohnson.com, our income has doubled. We have paid off over $76,000 of debt in just 45 months. My husband and my communication skills have just raised us through the roof, and my husband has cut back his hours, making more income. If you want results like these, you better get to First Steps to Success.
I have been plugging into Dani Johnson for the last 8 years, believe it or not. And people say, why so long? Well, because there's a lot to do in life, and it has changed every area of my life. My business has exploded, my spiritual life has been unmatched, and my relationship with my wife and my family has just been fantastic. We've paid off over $200,000 of debt in just 2 years. We're debt-free, and I just could not be happier. But if you want to change any area of your life, whether it's your business, your marriage, your relationship with your kids, your financial situation, or getting out of debt, or your spiritual life, I would tell you, you cannot afford to miss First Steps to Success. It has just been a blessing to me and my family. So I really invite you to just get online and get your ticket to the next First Steps to Success. Thank you very much.
In your face and in your corner. You've never had a coach like this before. It's the Dani Johnson Show.
Sometimes we fail as parents, and sometimes we don't. And sometimes our failures and our successes can have an impact on our kids. And sometimes just life has an impact on our kids. And we're talking about today struggles, especially in the area of self-harm, which Rachel Phillips, she's a part of our team. She's on our events team here at DaniJohnson.com and Destiny Global. Her family started plugging in to First Steps to Success when she was 14 years old, and this was at the time that she was self-harming. She's been completely set free from self-harm for the last 3 years. She has shared her story, bared her soul right here on national television and internationally on YouTube and all the different places that people are watching and listening to this from, as well as on the Truth Network, which is on radio and UA Network on television. I admire you for your strength to be able to share that story. And from the other side, hearing from Shelley as a mom. Yeah. And I remember when I found out that Roman had started doing this. Unfortunately, it was not a long season of doing it. Praise God. But right away, we got him into counseling and he started to work through these things. But it's a hard subject. And the reason why we're talking about it today is because, yes, it's very prevalent out there, and it affects the parents, it affects the siblings, it affects everybody, and everyone feels a sense of shame. Like, what have I done? How did I screw this up? What did I do wrong? And in this case, it wasn't necessarily your parents. It was the bullying that started the process of I shouldn't be around and I'm a burden and all this stuff. And I came into the world with that same exact thing. I was the unwanted child. And so rejection plays a big part in it. But see, we carry out rejection in lots of different ways. Rejection turning into fear, the fear of rejection. When you start a business or you're trying to create a good financial plan for your future, or paying off debt, or wanting to find a spouse you spend the rest of your life with, here's that fear of rejection. And we act out that fear of rejection. It causes us to self-sabotage our lives. We self-sabotage our finances. We self-sabotage our relationships. We self-sabotage in our jobs. We self-sabotage even physically, as you were sharing that the self-harm was the beginning, but then it was like starving yourself. You were anorexic. I was anorexic also in high school. And even after I had my first baby, I was anorexic. Same thing. I was told I was fat when I wasn't. gosh.
Yeah.
I was a competitive athlete with a six-pack on my stomach and gorgeous arms and great legs, and I'm fat. And I believed I was fat, and then I started to eat like I was fat, and guess what happened? I got fat.
Yeah.
And then I was anorexic, trying to starve myself with one tuna sandwich every 3 days or one apple every 3 days. And that was just completely self-destructive. But we pick up these lies, if you will, these belief systems that other people or just circumstances have imparted into our brain. Even movies that can impart these things into our brain, impart these ideas into our head, and then we start to live these things out. I am having Rachel stay here with me because I believe that she is just an incredible example of overcoming something that a lot of people have not been able to overcome. She's an example to young people as well as an encouragement to the mothers and the fathers whose children have gone in that way. And there's been awesome restoration between you and your parents and your entire family. And people are not embarrassed that you did that. It was like, no, this is part of our journey and we're not embarrassed of it. It was a moment in time and we are successful. We've created success for our lives in the midst of something that was really, really hard. But we have Sam Bart joining us also from Pennsylvania. I've actually interviewed Sam here on the Dani Johnson Show. His incredible first step success story. He was 13 years old when he started tapping into first steps, friends with Rachel, as well as all the rest of the teenagers that their parents have brought them to these training seminars so they can learn and develop and grow through the pains of their past and learn some great financial things and all of that. But Sam, you self-harmed. How old were you when you started self-harming?
Hey, I was probably 11 or 12.
Wow. And where did you start self-harming?
So the funny thing is I never actually cut myself. It was a different kind of self-harming.
Talk to me about it.
So what I actually would do was I would literally beat myself up. And when I say that, I mean literally throwing punches at my own head.
Wow.
I mean, slamming my head against the wall in my room or actually at school, maybe once or twice. So that was how.
Wow. Now, what drove you to do that?
Oh, it was just total self-rejection. I totally hated myself. I hated my guts. And it was for a lot of different reasons, a lot like Rachel had experienced. Like, I was bullied from the time I was probably in kindergarten. I was actually over 50 pounds overweight. I was made fun of for being fat. Same like her. I felt ugly. I felt fat, stupid, and worthless. I wasn't good in school. And because of all that, I just had this stigma where I said, I will always be second best. I'm never good enough. No one will ever love me. And those are the things that I believed in. And because of those beliefs, I said, I'm not even worth being alive. So I should just punish myself. And that's what I did.
Wow. Man, that's like... And Sam, you're gorgeous. Seriously. And you've been working out, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's very obvious. I couldn't believe you in the last summer I saw you. Like, that kid is built. Because it's been fun. I've known you since you were 13 years old. So this is, or 15 or whatever. It's been incredible to watch you transform into this incredible man who's focused, who's doing great in your career and all of that stuff. What was the defining moment that caused you to change this habit that you had in your life of literally beating yourself up? Not just verbally, but physically beating yourself up.
Right. Oh, and it was verbal too, you know. Of
course.
That's how it always starts. It always starts with your thoughts. So the way that I overcame that eventually was, you know, I started coming to first steps to success. And honestly, things in my life, it's pretty obvious if you were to look at my life from that point forward, the changes that happened in my life. So what happened is I started coming to these events, not willingly at first. My mom dragged me. And you know, in the middle of all that, my father passed away very suddenly from cancer. And so that was a really hard time. But we had already been to first steps to success. And that time period, I guess, kind of caused me to realize the importance of life and the importance to keep moving forward. So ever since then, and, you know, continuing to come to first steps and learning the importance of doing what's right. I think that's really the thing that changed a lot. And then losing 50 pounds really boosted my self-esteem. But honestly, if nothing else, it was meeting God. It was meeting God. It was meeting Him through people like you guys. through amazing friends that took care of me and my mom through that hard time when my dad passed away. It was through really seeing his love, and honestly, getting to know that he really loved me, because I grew up in church, but I never felt that love had anything to do with God. I always associated God with rules and grumpy old people.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So anyway,
true.
when I finally realized that God is love and that he really can love me and he loves us all,
even in your failures, even 50 pounds overweight, even with beating yourself up, right? He still loves you passionately. That's amazing. Yeah, there is something that happens to us, and there's a new identity that gets formed inside of us when we realize that he is not a mean old grumpy rule-giving man. I mean, yes, he has rules, but the rules are for our success. They're for our joy. They're for our healing. They're for our happiness. They're for our goodness. They're all in blessing. That's what the rules are. It's a formula, if you will, for all of those. And as well as rules that help us to walk through hard times, but walking in them in joy, walking through them in peace. Sam, thanks so much for sharing. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more after this. Rachel, thanks so much for joining us today. This was awesome.
My pleasure.
Don't go away. The next segment might just change your life. This is the Dani Johnson Show. If you or someone you know is practicing self-harm, contact the crisis text line. Text GO to 741-741 or call 1-800-344-HELP for free confidential help.
The whole story of how I went from homeless to millions is right here in this book, First Steps to Wealth. I'd love to give you a free copy of this book. Just dial 888-757-8880. You can get your free copy of this book. It's like a real book, my friend. You can get an ebook copy for free right now, or if you'd like to pay the shipping to get this $15 book to your house, I'd be happy to send it to you. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of First Steps to Wealth today and begin on a brand new path of some great success.
Did you know you can see Dani Johnson live and in person? Go to DaniJohnson.com and find out about our next live event. First Steps to Success. Register today. Call 866-760-8255 or go to DaniJohnson.com/FSTS.
You would think this would get easier. It doesn't. My name is Mia, and this is my awesome husband, Tony Gray. We're both from Maryland. Prior to plugging into DaniJohnson.com, we were beyond a mess. Probably an earthquake would be a better description. We were very young and married in high school. I was pregnant at 13. I was abandoned, abused, often turned to drugs and alcohol. And we just didn't know what to do. We knew how to put on a facade and come out before people. We worked long hours. He was never, ever home, and he was losing relationships with me and the kids. We were at the divorce attorney, ready just to quit. We didn't know a way out, and our debt, we just hung ourselves, it seems, every day, just going to work, spending, and then there was debt. We didn't know what to do. But after filing bankruptcy twice, you would think, well, you know what to do then. Well, we didn't. We kept making stupid decisions. And we were really just ready to quit. We were ready to give up. And we didn't see that there was any hope. I was actually depressed a whole lot. And since we got married so young, we wanted to be like the rest of our family and be divorced, because we were the only ones that were married for a long period of time. We lost several kids, but God blessed us with that. And after plugging in with DaniJohnson.com, life changed forevermore.
It's funny, I heard Dani say, talked about Donald Trump, and that was my way of life. He did it. He was a multi-millionaire. He filed bankruptcy multiple times, but I knew that wasn't the answer. I was working more hours, had a six-figure income, and found we were in more debt. But since plugging into War in Debt, in 36 months, we paid off $126,000. To me, it's all about giving back. And my wife has the biggest heart that I know, so it was her mission to not only get the information for us, but to share it in our community. So we had hundreds of people come to classes, but we had 92 people take action. And of those 92 people, in 34 months, they paid off $3.6 million.
Our marriage has been fully restored. Our children are absolutely amazing. They all own their own businesses. We raise 6 amazing kids every single day. And I can't tell you, without the DJU curriculum, without all of the products, we came at the beginning and we were piecemealing it, but that didn't work for us. You know how Dani says when you get the recipe, you need to get all the ingredients and not try to figure out, should I get the egg, should I get the milk? You just get it all and you follow directions. We follow directions and our life has changed forevermore. And we won't go back, we're just going ahead. So without further ado, help us bring back to the stage America's favorite millionaire, Miss Dani Johnson.
Change your habits, change your future. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
There's hope at the other end of struggles, even the struggle of self-harm. You can succeed, I promise you. We've got Kelly Waller from Phoenix, Arizona joining us. Kelly, you self-harmed in the past. What caused you to stop?
Hi. First, I would like to tell you thank you for talking about a subject like this. Thank you for what you do for young people.
Oh, thanks.
A young friend of mine, Tammy Zapier.
Yes.
You have changed her life. She rode my horse when she was about 6 years old, and I am enjoying watching her just blossom.
Yes, me too.
But, yeah, you know, mine started with I was molested very young.
Yep.
And I didn't tell anybody.
Yep.
And, of course, then the shame that Rachel talked about.
Yep.
And it just, you know, I was successful for a very long time, but I lived with that.
Yeah.
And finally, getting clean and sober helped a lot. So I was no longer masking those feelings. And boy, they came up and I had to deal with them.
Yes.
Yes, homeless at that point, living in my truck with 2 dogs and a cat. And just like Rachel, and just like, you know, I've listened to you, just that feeling came over me that that God loves me.
Yes.
And I don't have to be or do anything.
That's right. Wow.
And I'd read those scriptures all my life, but when it floods over you like that, it's just amazing.
Yes.
And of course, then the realization that when you talk about these things, when you share your story, you're helping someone else.
Yes.
And the past that you went through is okay.
And it's for a purpose. It's for a purpose. What we learn out of it and what we grow.
It took me a long time to learn these things. And these young people learning them I mean, bless you for what you do.
Oh, Kelly, thank you so much for sharing that. That you really touched my heart. And it seemed to have been a theme today. That when you come into that revelation, that no matter where you've been, no matter how many failures you've had, how many mistakes you've made, no matter how much you've drank or shot things in your arms, how many financial failures you've had, how many sexual failures you've had, no matter who has hurt you in the past, He, your Father, the perfect Father, loves and adores you just the way you are. And His heart and desire for you is for your good. It's for your success. It's for your peace, your love, your joy. It's for your healing. The healing of all those secret things that no one knows about that are tormenting you and driving you to false success, whether it's at the bottom of a bottle or in a needle, the false success, the false feeling of success, of making lots of money and spending it all, the false feeling of success of having sex with lots of different people. Trust me, I've been down all of those roads, except for needles. I haven't done that. I don't plan on doing that anytime soon. Bottom line, He loves you. I hope you enjoyed today's program. God bless you, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
If this episode was an encouragement to you, go to DaniJohnson.com and share it with your friends now. You never know who else needs to hear it. This has been the Dani Johnson Show. Join us every weekday at 7 a.m. for more insights that will help you get to the life you've always wanted.